In Nigeria, the education sector faces significant challenges due to poor funding by state governments falling below the UNESCO standard. The shortfall in investment exacerbates existing gaps in primary and secondary school, perpetuating issues such as inadequate infrastructure, insufficient teaching resources, and overcrowded classrooms. Compounding these challenges is the alarming increase in the number of out of school children across the country, highlighting the urgent need for comprehensive reforms and increased financial support to ensure every child has access to quality education. We now have joining us in our studios from Kano State. It's Umar Haruna Dogwa, the Commissioner of Education in Kano State. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning, Honorable Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
Just to let our viewers know that we are also expecting to join us via Zoom the Bauchi State Commissioner of Education, Dr.Jamila Dahiru. We yet to establish connections with her, but the moment we do, we'll also have her join us in this program. Doctor, once again, it's a pleasure to have you join us in the studio. Let's quickly dive straight into the conversation. Perhaps it will be proper to have you give us what the perspective is in Kano. You know, as time progresses, we have seen a decreasing provision for the education sector, and even where these monies are provided, releases become extremely difficult, and this is taking a toll on the quality of education. And of course, as we said in our intro, the number of out-of-school children is becoming alarming, and that is becoming a menace also to the society. Can you give us a sense of what the situation is in Kano for a start?
Firstly, begin by thanking Daily Trust for having this very interesting and, in fact, interesting and important topic discussion. You know, when you are discussing on, and you know it, at least you are in solving that problem. Well, let me just take you to 2015. It also happened at that time I was a commissioner in Kano. When we left government, you can go and check the records. We have all our school roofed. We have a chair in every classroom. We have uniform for every child. We have the highest number of annual enrollment, and so many good things are going on. But unfortunately, when we left office in 2018 and another government came in, there was total dilapidation of that sector. When I came as a commissioner, that time the last time I was higher education. Now I am commissioner for education. When we came back, we met a completely dilapidated, completely non-existent, I can call it non-existent sector called education sector. Let me just give you an insight. We have 5.3 million students in Kano State. Out of them, we met that 4.5 million are sitting on the floor. We have schools with 6,000 students without a single toilet. We have teachers that cannot even read and write their names. We have schools that were hitherto but were closed down for selfish in. We have boarding school that students get fed once in a day. We have so many situations that are not healthy for the growth of the education sector. When we came, without what we met, and that's what we are facing now, and we are facing the challenge squarely. We meet to give you an insight. This is what we met on ground, and that's what is happening now in Kano State, and the new government we have our own agenda. We are pursuing that agenda. Right. Now, for your question, this is what we met on ground, and this is so terrible.
Clearly, one of the overarching achievement of the Kwankoso era in Kano is, the reformation in the education sector, for instance. And it's interesting to hear that in less than 10 years, you're basically saying that some of those achievements have been completely wiped out. But to the credit of Kano State, currently, if we just take a look at the budgetary allocation across all the 36 states of the Federation, in northern Nigeria, Kano State is the highest in terms of budgetary allocation. I think the third in the country, well over 120 billion naira
for the 2024 appropriation year. Give me an understanding of what those funds will be used for, because there is also this program that you've put in place to address the out-of-school children phenomenon, as well as girl education in Kano, where you're incentivizing some of these girls by paying them a token to stay in school or to even go to school. Give us an idea of some of the innovations, as well as the different out-of-the-box approach that you're using to address those structural challenges, from access to infrastructure, as well as innovative programs that are supposed to give the students and the next generation a step ahead.
Well, let me tell you that fortunately I also happen to be the past chairman of NNPP in Kano State that took this government. You see, one way of campaigning, our cardinal principle of campaign was that we have to reject the education as done during the concourse administration. And luckily enough, the people voted for us because of a single promise. So when we came in, His Excellency first was to provide the fund, that is to increase it. We are now having 29.97% of our budget 2024 as part of the Assembly and signed by the Governor as aligned to the education sector. Now, if you are talking about education, you are talking about three things, mainly teacher, student, and the infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, I mean classroom, teaching aid, and teaching materials. Now, we've started approaching this really. We are not sleeping on it. Firstly, we address the issue of infrastructure by providing teaching materials. We have some new innovation there. We have come up with what we call teachers observation register or class observation register, where a teacher has to sign attending any class. If you attend a class, you sign that you have attended that class. And we've also into issue of serious monitoring. Since the Commissioner of Education, I visited more than 300 schools by month, primary, secondary, and on schedule, just to see for myself what is happening at school. So we have also approved the motion of teachers. So it's like we have reject the issue of infrastructure by massive, I say massive, I mean massive teaching aid and teaching material, was more than billion. Some of these materials were just there. Some of them we purchased. Some of them we improvise to make sure that the student and the teachers have something to rely on. Books that were bought during Congress administration but worked because they don't feel like it is an important that they should promote. So we bought all these books, we distributed it to the schools, we distribute teaching aids, we distribute chalks, we distributed massively. So we are now at the issue of infrastructure. And we have also set a huge amount of money that will go into actions and even building new schools. So one is taken care of. On the issue of the student, we have come up with, like you said, the issue of incentive. We are incentivizing them through two means. One, we are providing vehicles. We have renovated about 70 high-capacity buses that have the capacity of taking 100 to 150 students that convey students early in the morning to their classes and return them back, especially in the police, the local government that are more related. And we are taking it even to the rural areas. So we are now addressing the issue of students to even have access to going to school in good time. We have also the issue of poverty. That's why we are incentivizing them to Southern area girls under the program called, so that at least each and every girl will not be seen in the street hawking or doing like that. She will be in her classroom attending to lessons. That's for the student. We also give them food. We devise a means of proper feeding in boarding schools. We've even revised the revised per student. We have revised it upward, and we are feeding them 3 daily square meals. And so introduce the issue. You could recall that it was the administration that introduced the issue of in primary school. We have also come up with a program. We are pulling it off. We are starting to be big on that. We are also giving uniform to students, so at least students will not feel disguised. Those that are from the poor background, you have uniform that they can go into the classroom with them. We have also set aside huge money for conducive atmosphere of the environment. In a way that we are going to make the schools look so conducive for each and every student attracted to the schools, so that he will now go and learn.
Right.
Issue of
Honorable Commissioner, if I may.
Teachers, like I said, we are
Thank you very much. I just quickly want to put in this. We understand we now have Dr. Jamila online, but before I come to her, I quickly want you to address a point that you raised in your opening statement, which was that you came back and also met teachers who found it very difficult to write their name. Your viewers, and I'm sure Kanolites, would like to understand what has happened to those crop of what appears to be incompetent recruitment within the educational sector. Have you done away with them? Are they still inherent in the system? Because that has an overall impact in the quality of output.
Yeah, you see, when we came in, there was a World Bank program called BEG, and in that BEG we have cohort 1, cohort 3, which are teachers do not fully employed, like a kind of on this basis that were being paid. They are put together, there are about none of them. So we see, because of the paucity of teachers in the state, decided to make a policy statement that we are employing these better teachers. But we understand that they don't go to the schools. Some of them don't even go, they don't even know how to teach. So we did an examination for them. We conduct oral one. We first of all checked. It was so unfortunate that some of those students, some of those teachers were just smuggled through. You see somebody with to me to be concerned. Somebody may even not be having the result. Somebody may be in NC1, but is being employed as a classroom teacher. So we all do our ones, and you could recall also that there was a kind of event that was conducted by the last administration haphazardly during their wee days of going. So we review it, and that most of the teachers that we are employed are not competent to be called teachers. So we do our, and we are checking. That's why we introduced the sign for raising observation. Right. What that means is that we have to go in, check what you did in that class during that, check your notebook, check the teachers' test exercise books, and see what you are teaching. What is it that they are taking from you? Right. So at least, if we find anybody wanting, definitely we are going to allow him to continue in the sector.
Okay. Thank you very much for that recap. Let's segue and talk to the Commissioner for Education from Bauchi State. Dr. Jamila has just joined us for this conversation. Doctor, good to have you back again on the program. Let's get some sort of situation report from Bauchi State. We understand that the scale of the problem is quite significant. The last time we spoke, you're talking about some of the innovative ideas that you're trying to put in place to address the issue of access, quality, as well as some of those issues around tackling the out-of-school children phenomenon in Bauchi. Where are we, especially looking at the budgetary allocations and funds that are quite critical towards addressing these structural problems?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning once again. From Bauchi State, yes, the last time we spoke, we discussed about issues around access and quality. And I recall we mentioned the fact that Bauchi State was on the verge of developing a roadmap for implementation after a very well-coordinated project we did, which was the Education Summit. So one of the outcomes of the Education Summit was to develop a roadmap for implementation. And I would like to say that convergence of all the critical stakeholders from within and outside the state that came together to provide solutions to the problem we were facing in the education sector. So on issues of access, we understand that there was a time that Bauchi was among the states leading in the out-of-school children. If you can look at the statistics now, we have reduced the number massively. We have reduced the number of out-of-school children through our various strategies that you mentioned, I mentioned, some of which include involvement of the critical stakeholders like the traditional institution, like the parents, like the NGOs in the state, like all the parastatals in the state, through massive advocacy and sensitization efforts. And just around January, February, we have data from UNICEF and data from us through the enrollment campaign that we did, showcasing that we have actually reduced the number massively to about a half. And this is thanks to some of this effort that we mentioned. Also around the issues concerning infrastructure, yes, we have a budget line of about 16% of the state budget allocated to the education sector, and we have already started implementing this areas of concern, such as infrastructure, provision of teaching and learning materials in our schools. We have had also fundings coming through our various funding sources like the UNICEF, like SUBEB, UBEC funding, like the BESDA funding, also the state government. We have provided teaching and learning materials at our basic and post-basic levels, and we are on the verge of final distribution in our schools. We have started minor repairs of classrooms in our schools, and some elements of other infrastructures like the kitchen in boarding schools, like hostels in boarding schools, some of the critical areas that we have to make conducive for our students. Also, in the area of lack of teachers or inadequate number of teachers in our schools, I've mentioned that there was an approval to recruit more teachers in Bauchi State. And I'd like to say that apart from just recruitment, we are also going into another program. One of the interventions we're introducing, the volunteer teacher program. Apart from that, we are training our teachers. We have introduced a monitoring and evaluation coaching software that will enhance our monitoring and evaluation and monitoring of teachers. And we have already launched the software. We've already started using last term, and it has actually motivated our teachers. We've seen an increase in the percentage of reduction in absenteeism by teachers. We've also seen also some level of increase in classroom teaching and participation, because we are not only encouraging them to be in their classrooms, we're also coaching them through the school officers and through the education inspectors, through our own quality assurance units, and so on and so forth. Right. And most importantly, in Bauchi State, we have a diverse sector. We have the higher education, we have the basic and post-basic. In the higher education sector, we're also paying attention. That's the concern of the Ministry for Higher Education. We've allocated funds to also take care of some of the issues that they're facing, like lack of hostels, lecture halls, even provision of roads, access roads in the campuses of Bauchi State. So I'd like to say that we're doing very well in terms of tackling some of the issues that we have found, and we have based on the strategies that we have mapped out together with stakeholders, experts, and it's a very good development in Bauchi State. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As we round up on this program, quickly we want to take the closing remarks of Commissioner from Kano State, Umar Haruna. And my question really has to border on peer reviews. How much of peer reviews is happening within and amongst education departments or commissioners in the country, where you can borrow best practice of what has been implemented in other places and implement in your own place? But more importantly, how sustainable are some of the interventions you're bringing? And you talked about being there in 2015 and you went away for just 8 years, and it appears there was a complete reverse by your own account. What else are you doing to ensure that whatever you put in place now are enduring in nature, are sustainable, such that even if you are not there, these practices or systems would continue to drive themselves?
Okay, let me first of all recognize that recently, I think last 2 or 3 weeks, this report from DRPC, an international non-governmental organization that concern with education, poverty, alleviation, and other things like that. They came out with their report, and it was testing that there is significant increase in the number of enrollment of students in Kano State. It's like the education sector is now picking off from what it suffers for the last year. That's one. In terms of fair review, I can tell you that the Commissioners of Education, under the chairmanship of the Kwara State Commissioner for Education, is doing very well, and we are meeting regularly. We do meet we met Uyo, I could recall. We also had in Lagos during the NCCE. We had calls among ourselves. We also have a platform in which we are discussing issues. The platform that involves Commissioners of Education on the Federation, where we share our insight, what is happening in the state, and this and that. And I've also had calls with the Honorable Minister for Education, coming up with a plan where they will be meeting with Commissioner of Education regularly from time to time to review what is happening in each and every state and see the way forward. They have taken the idea very well, so they are going to another. So in terms of peer review, yes, we are in constant contact with every one of us, so we know what is happening. I know, for example, I know some of the things that are happening in Shi, and also that are happening in my neighbors, Kano, Kaduna, and Katsina. So we are also trying not to see what is good here and what making progress there. So we are doing that one very, very well. In terms of sustainability, it's a two-way approach. One, we are going to put in place things that definitely will be sustained over time. We made a mistake when we handed over government to the wrong person in the first place. But having said that, it is now left for the people to know and understand that are ready and willing to improve the education of their children. And you can see that because of the awareness of forgiveness in Kano, people are now becoming more aware that yes, if you came to them, you have to tell them what you are planning to do, or what you are preparing to do to the education sector. You see, the whole issue concerning education is about practically monitoring. If there is a proper monitoring, there is no way the education sector will not be strong. There is no way we will not have the best student. There is no way our teachers will not be doing the right thing. I have told somebody something very recently, that if you check across if you check, private schools are thought to be the more productive. But if you input, I mean, if you look at what is paid in private school, you cannot compare it with what is being paid in public school. You can get a teacher that is earning 120, 140 in public school, but hardly can you get any teacher earning more than 100,000 in private school. So the input from government is far more than in the private sector. But yet, the result is coming out from the private sector is better and more appreciated than what is from the public school. So the issue of monitoring is paramount. That's why His Excellency the Governor is putting more emphasis on monitoring. He's doing it by himself, and every other agency is also on education and doing it on their sector.
Right. Commissioner, I would love for us to go on and on, especially the interesting political undertones in some of your assessment as well as analysis. But for want of time, we're going to have to draw, the conversation to a close. But we have to get to Bauchi just to get the closing remarks of Dr. Jamila regarding what the scale of the solution is looking like. I know you're painting a picture that things are turning around, but the reality is that we're still very far from the mountaintop. So give me an idea what the projection of the Bala Mohammed administration is regarding the gaps that still exist, that you're still dealing with, and where funding is going to come from to address those issues that especially require resources to address. Very briefly, if you can.
Thank you very much. Yes, very briefly, I'll say that we have a roadmap, like I mentioned. And looking at our roadmap, I said that we are doing very well because we've started implementing. But I'd like to point to one area that is very critical in ensuring that we are delivering on the roadmap and that we are delivering on the mandate of His Excellency to rejig the education center and bring back the lost glory in Bauchi State. We used to be the leading educational state in the Northeast. And that is to say, all of us have, for commissioners, we have what we call the key performance indicators. In those key performance indicators, we are looking at areas that need improvement. And for us, it is mid-term key performance and end-of-term mid-performance. And for us, we are almost halfway from January to now. I'm not even talking about last year because our performance started ticking from January. And so it's a very good picture to say that with all the resources, the effort that we're putting in the education sector, Bauchi is having a headway. For instance, I mentioned the issue of enrollment, where we are reducing the number of out-of-school children. We are supposed to reduce it with almost bare minimum. at least to 500,000 if we cannot erase all. And so we are almost done with that aspect, because for now we have reduced about 750,000. And then when we talk about infrastructure, I mentioned the building of mega schools. I mentioned building new schools under many projects that we're introducing, Agile, BESA, and so on. But apart from that, the state government also allocated a huge amount of funding to ensure that we are reviving the infrastructure in our schools, especially minor repairs, new construction, and so on. I would say that we're doing very well in that regard as well. Teacher training, we have started training of teachers, we have introduced software, we have introduced initiatives. I would say that it's a very good picture. So yes, Bauchi is very well on track, and we will ensure that we deliver on that. Thank you very much.
Dr. Jamila, thank you very much, as always, for taking the time and for joining the conversation. Honorable Commissioner for Education in Bauchi State, and Umar Haruna, the Commissioner for Education in Kano. Thank you both most kindly for joining the conversation. As you can imagine, this is a recurring conversation that we'll look forward to circling back in the near future to discuss a lot more about some of the developments in this key industry that will determine the successes of future generations to come. Thank you both for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you.